On this video, I'll be talking about the Canon R6 and how to get that cinematic feel and colors on it. I'll be also giving you my personal LUTs totally for free on the links below. Since I use mostly this camera for B-roll, I'm always on 4K 60, which is incredible on this camera. Some people say it's even better than the Canon R5 on 4K 60, which I've seen 4K 60 on the R5, on the more expensive R5, and I'm sticking with the R6. I'm always shooting on manual to be able to dial in my shutter speed and my exposure. So remember always to double your shutter speed as your frame rate. So if you're shooting 4K 24, your shutter speed should be 48. If you're shooting 4K 60, your shutter speed should be 120. When you're doing this, you're letting more light hit the sensor, so you will need an ND filter. The ND filter that I use and prefer is the Polar Pro Peter McKinnon one. This one is the 2:5. That's it fits mostly all my situations. They have also a 6:9, but I feel it's very dark. So, in my situations, I will not be using a lot of the 6:9. Another great thing about this camera is the low light. It performs incredible when you're shooting in low light situations. One thing to keep in mind when shooting in low light situations is that C-Log will always introduce noise into the footage. So if I'm shooting at night, I will always use a normal color profile, in this case neutral, because I find that C-Log really introduces too much noise. One of the reasons I chose this camera over the C70 was the weather seal. I mean, I've been over pouring rain, had this camera on, and nothing has happened. It's a tank. I remember one time I was shooting in Machu Picchu in Peru, and I was just waiting for the clouds to clear, right? But rain just began pouring down. And I just stuck there with my camera on my shoulder, just waiting it out. And the weather seal was incredible. I was able to stand there for hours and I just waited for that perfect shot. Now let's talk about the color that I get out of this camera. The C-Log 3 on it, grades incredible. It can stand perfectly heavy color grading and the footage just doesn't break. One little secret I'm gonna let you guys in is that I'm always using this CineBloom from Moment. This is the 10% diffusion. I always pair it with my Peter McKinnon ND filter for those sunrise or sunset shots. It just gives me that extra glow on the footage. A question that I get a lot is that if it's worth buying an ND filter that's $250, $300 when they find a bunch of filters on Amazon for 40, 30 bucks. Well, the answer is simple. It depends on the lens you're using. In my case, I'm using the 2470 RF lens, which is around $2,400 to $2,500. So for me, it makes sense that whatever I put in front of my lens is high quality. But if you're starting up and you're just using a $300 lens, then it makes sense for you to put a $30, $40 ND filter. So it would always depend on your situation and what you're shooting. Touching down on the lens that I use, which is the 2470 RF, for me is the perfect lens for this camera. You can tackle almost every shot with this lens. This is a zoom lens that looks like a prime. It's incredible. But again, that's what you're paying for. You're paying $2,400 for this lens. So, I know it's expensive, but it's worth it. It's totally worth it. Now, guys, I have linked down below the LUTs that I use on a daily basis for this camera. Keep in mind that those LUTs will do 75% of the work. You will apply those LUTs and then you will need to correct and balance out everything. Balance out the shadows, balance out the exposure. Sometimes it will just work like magic and you will not need to move almost nothing. But most of the times you will need to correct those highlights, those shadows. You can also play around with the intensity of the LUTs. Guys, this is it for this video. I hope you liked it. Remember to subscribe, support the channel, like, comment, because that helps me to do more videos like this one. Remember to download the LUTs down below, and see you in the next one.